Hello, welcome. This is Origin. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you're having a good day or night, whatever time of day it is for you. As always, we're going to be just kind of working through something or doodling if we feel like it. There's no plan necessarily, but there's definitely a starting point. So with that being said, let me talk about what I have here. So what this is no specific elf or no specific creature, but definitely inspired by what you might see in Lord of the Rings. Having very elfy ears and definitely looking like a hero with so many head heights and this broad, strange sword. Definitely looks like some kind of century military weapon, something designed maybe to intimidate, even if not the most practical because of its size. Give me one moment to just adjust some volumes here. Just kind of want to get the music just right so that I hear it the right volume, and so do you. So hopefully that's pretty good. Okay. So the last thing I did on this excuse me. Last thing I did on this was I had this design that was a little bit lower and I moved it up. And I think it looks a little better. And that just leaves this broad open area here where the breastplate would be. And obviously all this fuzzy business. Down here, that's more of a suggestion. Currently, worked a lot on the face. Still seems like the eyes could use a little bit of work. They're not quite fleshed out and even, so. Actually, instead of obsessing over that detail, let's just go ahead and do some broad stuff. It's funny, I think about my week and it seemed like it went pretty well, but it instantly makes me tired to think about. Like a lot of people, I've maybe had a little bit of seasonal downs that have kind of made me want to just stick in my place and don't want to think about anything else, really. Sorry, that is a bit difficult to follow. I guess what I'm saying is that everything feels like it takes a lot of energy, even if it's going well. And I think this week has been pretty good, actually. Everything has been pretty peachy. Couple weeks. Oop, didn't mean to add any color quite yet. That is another thing to mention here, is that I'm working in black and white and I'll be adding color in just a bit. And this is something kind of new I'm trying. I like the way it kind of makes this figure look anyway, kind of ethereal. Forces me to focus more on structure of what's going on. Kind of almost looks, I think, like you see those like MatCap 3D renders without any texture on them. Kind of reminds me of that. Glad I zoomed out a bit because I need to work on the form of the body a little bit. Definitely not a master here, just doing what comes to mind, doing things the way that it seems right. Excuse me while I clear my throat a bit. Seems like the body should be just a little bit wider. Anyway, I hope your week is going okay. And if not, you're here now. And that's a success. Yeah, it's taken a lot of energy lately. I blame the season. And I'm doing things about it, trying to get out. Probably should do more of that. A little more of maybe everything. Maybe a little less blaming myself. But overall, not doing too bad. I get a little bit of stressies, I think, when I start streaming. That's natural. Trying to think about how to start everything off. Welcome everyone, you know. Makes your mind kind of rush. Try to avoid it, but it always catches me. I'm very happy I decided to go forward on this journey. Because despite the fact that this is a very public sort of exposure for me, it still feels somehow safe. I don't really feel like anyone judges me. I like that. I want you to feel safe here too. Like we're just friends chatting and doing artwork. It just sounds so good. So wonderful. Draw some fingers here. Maybe a knuckle there. Thumb. Think about how exactly his belt is secured here. I imagined maybe some hanging armor. And even though the shadow won't quite look like this when it's done, we'll go ahead and shadow in some of this stuff just to show the lower edge. So we get these kind of layers too, makes sense. I got a little bit of throat stuff going on today. Let's worry a little bit less about the weapon just a moment. Think a little bit more about these plates. They're actually probably hanging, suspended from the layers of this outfit he's wearing. What's hanging? Excuse me. Oh my goodness. What's hanging from his waist? Probably makes a fantastic sound when he walks around. To decide where the boot actually starts. And there's probably a knee guard here. Probably stretches out a little bit behind to protect the joint. The joints are very interesting to think about. Having worn armor lots of times, because I do HEMA, joints are always one of those things here you have to think, not only is the joint itself covered, but how does it move, of course? How does it allow you to move? How does it not allow you to move? Because all armor restricts you a little bit. Dungeons and Dragons players know this. Arcane spell failure. And, also, what's interesting, and a lot of people don't consider with armor unless you've had it happen to you, is that if a sword strikes somewhere right here, up a crack or something like that, I think most people think, yes, that's a gap that you could gap in your armor, right? But also it could get stuck. And it's happened to me in a tournament, actually. I had some layers that were like scales near my shoulders. Somebody put their foil, and it just got stuck right there. And it was an awkward affair. So you have to think about in the joint also what guards against something slipping up there. This is why this flare kind of exists here, so that it will not stick in anything. But, you know, in fantasy, you also have to make some other crazy assumptions, like maybe this combatant is so good and skilled with their armor they would never allow that to happen. Maybe that's something they would just kind of keep those blows away. Or maybe it's magically protected. Or funny things like that. So, yeah. Lots to think about with armor. At least when it comes to the kind of kinetic things that you have to worry about with swords. arrows, weapons of old. Melee. I think is there may be some kind of a belt or something here. Probably. Probably maybe even pouches for equipment. Maybe there's something here. Something to store his chewing gum in. I'd be pretty mad if in combat somebody broke my chewing gum pouch. Because then I'd be all out of bubble gum. And I was only there to kick ass and chew bubble gum. So you know what's going to happen. I'm so sorry. So I got a little bit of a decision to make here. I think it was an accident, the way this was shaped. But I'm going to put a layer on top so that I can talk here. I like that this shape exists that's like this. And then this almost covers like this down below the elbow. That's kind of a cool shape to put for elbow armor. It looks very dragony. It's interesting because the vambrace, which is the forward part of the arm here, I'm even drawing a different color. The vambrace seems to come up like this, and actually might even be a little bit underneath that elbow. And from this side, that elbow looks like it would come out. Let's see, maybe out to here. Sweep down a little bit and come over. And then again, cover over the vambrace a little bit. I have to work with these curves a bit. Actually, you know what? I think it comes a little bit further down like this. It's pretty sticky outy on this side. Let's rethink this. How do you know where it comes down? So, at some point it's focus on something here. Where it covers the vambrace up about the midline of the arm. Oh, let's get rid of that. So, where's the midline here? That's sort of in line with the thumb, the inside. And because I haven't really drawn a thumb on this hand yet, it's maybe a little bit hard to imagine, but the midline is probably over right around here. So if I paint to about there, I guess the flare of this thing ends maybe right about there. This is a false line. Bulbs out pretty far. Which point it would come back in. Then wrap around the joint like this. It still doesn't seem quite right. Maybe just optically it just doesn't seem very appealing from the wrong angle. Thinky. Also, it seems like I've kind of slid this thing a little bit too far down. So let's draw a bunch of blobs. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this. Think again. know for sure that we need to have something covering up here. And we know that this comes around about here. So maybe what we did before was still pretty appropriate. See, it looks so odd. It looks so good on that elbow, and then the way I've drawn it over here isn't right. It's a complex shape. Seems like it kind of stylistically comes from an inner shape of a ball, and then a bit of a cuff that comes down and covers the inner joint. But then the ball isn't perfect and it needs to actually cover this and the top of the ball. It's really what comes down like this. That kind of forms the basic shape. So if I take that shape and I move that over here, rotate it, compress it a bit, rotate back a bit, move it over. Let's reduce this again. Think for a second. I love doing these experiments with you here. Because I'm not going for speed. I'm actually trying to learn why I'm making certain assumptions be obvious to somebody who is maybe a bit more experienced. But let's say for a moment that we put that there. Oh. I think I'm definitely overthinking this. Okay, let's just remove this layer for now. We're done with our sketching. Go back. Work volume wise. Because after all, that is how that other one kind of came to be. Definitely seeing it from a different perspective because the joint is bent differently over here. And there would definitely have to be something actually inside of here to protect, because a downward blow would definitely get you otherwise. Maybe this also comes down like this. I also have to think, is that just catching too much attention? Perhaps it is. I think it is. I think that some solid regular joints actually at the end of the day would be a lot better. Boring old joints. Just boring old protective, won't lead to your death joints. How disappointing. Just adding a little highlight to these plates. To think, what is his hand doing? So, first of all, this hand is kind of probably resting on a pommel. I think it might be that. It's funny, I kind of have a feeling for how the hand should be resting, but like, I don't see it yet. I think he probably has a hand very lightly rested on the handle. Not on top of it, but almost touching it like he expects to have to pick it up at any second, swing it up. With a sword this big, it's almost like a great sword. You would probably actually kick to get the sword up. When I learned how to do great sword work, you actually have the sword down near your feet. Either it's on your toe and you kick with the other foot to get out of its resting position and get it up in the air. Kind of interesting. You definitely don't want to take time to sit and heft your sword into the air in a hurry. Of course, it seems kind of silly to be standing around with a great sword. It's a denial of area weapon, and you probably are already almost ready to be swinging it around by the time the enemy's anywhere near you. So, his fingers seem a little strange. And I'm building structure on one side of these vambraces, so might as well build the structure on the other side too. Take my mind off the silly hands that I'm drawing. Do any of you do these things? I hope so, because then I don't feel so alone. different things for sure. Let's see. Let's step back. You know, it seems kind of strange. I would assume that this hand, if I'm thinking, that hand would be on the pommel and the other hand would probably be on top. So why don't we just do that? Let's get rid of these fingers back here. It just seems more natural, you know, to have this hand kind of rather. So let's just erase all these fingers here. Ouch. And have this hand out. Just seems much more natural to have the hand actually resting on the handle like this. And this hand make his arm a little bit more perspective wise up. On the wrist. Right? More like that. I think that looks a lot better. The only thing is his arm is looking a little bit too stiff and straight and perhaps long. Really long. But he's also a very tall person. Still, I'm feeling like that hand needs to come back just a bit. I'm going to wreck everything and have fun at it. Okay, so let's go. Doop, 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 doopy doop, 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 boop, 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 boop. Make a mess. Let's make a mess. Making a mess. Messy mess. Okay. So, that seems to be a more appropriately sized for I'm gonna put this on another layer because probably no, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna leave it where it is because the only thing that I'm covering up is just part of the other hand that's over it, and I just barely blocked that out. So let's just reblock that just like that. There's nothing yet to protect, so no work has really been done. Let's make this more three-dimensional. Decide where are the knuckles. front is just barely flattened a little bit, but not like that much. I made a pancake. Tinky tink. These are thinking lines. Okay. And these are lines for helping me mark out the boundaries of things. This is looking more like Tron armor. I need to fix that. So the forearm is not going to bend up, so there's no point in whatever the hell I was thinking. Leaving off the point. Let's go back to basics here because I'm getting a little bit lost in the shape here. So let's just go ahead and remove those plates of armor. Get a good three-dimensional form going on this guy. Decide where the top is. Decide where the bones of the wrist are. Come down with those bones. Bones of the hand. Thumb. Knuckles. Right. So we make a little bit less of a mess. Okay, so that's at least a little bit more proportional. Makes sense. So now I can come back and build up some armor plate. There's really three sections here. The last section probably has a That's good enough for the moment being. I'm going to take a quick break. So, I'll return in just a moment. Let's move that somewhere funny. There we go. Very good. Okay. See you in a moment. Okay, I'm back. Let us continue. I think what I want to do, just for the sake of feeling like I'm moving towards a finished product, let's go ahead and just clean up edges. And also, that'll give me a little bit of a chance to yap. I've had a lot of unusual visions lately, and some of them weigh heavily on me. I use the term loosely when I say visions. I say very strong, imaginative elements. But sometimes when you imagine things, you find synchronicities in the world. They tend to make you feel like there's meaning. I'm very deconstructionist about why we believe things. Sometimes I imagine things that I don't really know where they came from. Or I'll have dreams that are so intense that I feel like I could almost lead my life as if they were visions into what is true, insight into what is true. At a deeper level than we can see in our reality. Perhaps it's all in the name of finding peace. Could be. I feel like when I was younger, I spent a great deal of time, a lot of energy in my mind, trying to reject anything I felt was untrue, because it seemed to me that the world focused so much and revolved so much around delusions and things that were untrue, and I was obsessed with determining the absolute truth. Very positivistic, scientific. And as happens when you get older, you start realizing that it's a little bit hazy and you will never understand what is really true. The best you can do is decide to act sort of principled and to hedge your bets so that you're not closing doors for yourself or others, depending on what your personal philosophy is. That's not to say I haven't had some wild experiences where just beyond explanation, couldn't have been dreams, couldn't have been anything else other than a vision. Things like near-death experiences. Getting a little heavy. quite a dark fellow. I guess the truth is that I've been really haunted by some of these experiences lately. And if I was just going full woo, I would say they bring me closer to the past, possibly before my life in this body. They help make sense out of things, even if just metaphorically, in my mind and my life. Sometimes I feel like an actor on a stage. And if I'm willing to play the part, then I'll understand more about myself. Maybe not unlike if you've watched an episode of your favorite show and you invested in the characters to learn about yourself. I still live in those two worlds between something spiritual and something more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not scientific, but investigative, open-minded. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before this pair at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get this straight. Let's straighten out these fancy joints here. What I imagine maybe is a chain. Right now it's just dots. I do this a lot. I put in an element of, in this case, some iterative thing, and then decide what makes the most sense there. So this is a gorget. Just to protect his throat a little bit, deflect some blows. I imagine he probably has something attached to his helmet that further protects his throat. Obviously, it's pretty exposed like this, and he's got a very long neck, just heroic proportions again. And I think this probably integrates with that. Let's continue to work on this. You can see where I moved this pattern up. I'm taking my yap time with this. Thousand-yard stare. No, not really. Looks more focused than that. I'm the one doing 1,000-yard stares. Thinking out loud into the void here. The structure of these ears. Clean up these edges, although the hair will be a little bit fuzzy. Let's just work our way around. Think, doodle, yap. maybe a suggestion for myself in a bit for how these elbows connect as I go around. Clean up some of these adjustments I made. The hand here, we don't want to clean up his hand. Hello, whoever joined, and welcome. Think about this weapon now, exactly how it is shaped. The edge, this hilt just above the edge of the weapon. This is a very unusual, I said, century-like weapon. Almost has this kukuri-like shape to it. A little too fat in the back, and we'll take care of that in a moment. Yeah, this is very heavy. He would have to kick this up, just like a great sword. I kind of almost like this point, snagging point at the end. What maybe started as an accident can become my decision. Let's make this line more defined. Back here, less suggested. Perhaps there's actually a fuller that runs all the way down, or hollow cut. I'm gonna rotate this actually, make it a little bit easier for me to work on. Decide where this truly ends on this edge. I'm just going to use white and kind of clean this up so it's less distracting, and then move in on those details on the armor just a bit. Changed our mode there by accident. Okay. Let's readjust our orientation. Take a step back and look at this. Finding that this shadow is a little bit distracting. Actually want to, I think, make this blade just a little bit more, I don't know, something. Perspective seems a little strange, but it's okay for now. Let's see on this side what we have. Not going to worry so much about the armor details at the moment. Just try to get a little bit more clarity around the edges. Just one moment. Okay. Let's work a bit more quickly now. I have 1, 2, 3, but over here I have 4. So let's rectify this. First, there are 4 actually. I just didn't completely resolve this one. This section of his greaves. He'll be coming up and actually be obscured by the sword. Hmm. There's this kind of a lip here. And if I'm being true for shading, these sections are not shaded yet correctly, because there would be actually some obscure areas. Let's pick a fairly dark color here. Start working in some of that. Just to be a little bit more honest about what the actual structure is. It's less confusing. So if this is hanging, it's not going to be quite so tapered like that. Probably will make a lot more sense when it's actually textured. Mm-hmm. The back, very dark. Heavier shadows in here. Mostly to help me make sense. Let's continue to work around. Seems like there's a lot of fuzz sticking around in the margins. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Take a look. And just delete. Then we'll cut back a bit. Alright. Now thinking. About texturing in some of this. Especially this hanging mail. Actually, maybe it's a good time to start to color a little bit. And we start with his eyes. I'll try things here. Crystal blue. Let's try this tone. See how I like that. Like a coloring book. So much fun. Not working quite yet with some of the other areas. We will, like the lips, light transmission, catching some of the blues that you would get, a little bit of reds. Slightly blue hue too, maybe some elements of the armor. Let's try. See what that looks like. Maybe we'll darken some of this, like his greaves. I think at this point, now that we've added the places that have more color, ever so slight tint of blue in the blade. Do this, merge down. background back. Take a look. Pop on an overlay. Work with some other shadows. Overall tint. Darken some of this just a touch. Again, the overlay is just going to mostly increase the contrast if I do it this way. Which is perfect. That's pretty much what I want. Let's merge this appropriately. If I don't add the layer mask, it goes outside. So, okay, now it's merged. Think for a moment. I think screen is what I want here, because, well, let's try something. No, screen isn't right. So what happens if I merge that? No. So in essence, what I'm going to do here is just add a little bit of shadow to this, and this doesn't even need to be darkened. Let's just go with normal, low opacity, limit. I don't want to completely overpaint. I want to add more plates so that I can go back and highlight. It's still giving me the opportunity here to erase, to create those highlights. So I'm being very bold in my strokes, because I know that I can just come back and remove them. There's some messiness here. Not entirely sure what the structure is yet. ice a little bit in this layer. Crystallize some of that highlight. Let's make a clean merge. Stop and step back and take a look. The structure is a little strange between these 2 feet. Let's clarify that there are these front parts of these grave plates that stick up a little bit higher. And these parts that kind of launch up. From the sides, thin out towards the top. Really deepen the shadows on these. So they have good structure. I'm thinking that this will look a little better when it's fleshed out with texture as being hanging. Because right now it seems a bit too, I don't know, like it's just restrictive and it's not a solid piece though. Are we going to see a sideguard here? I'm thinking yes, and I have to commit more to it. Give it a bit of a shape. come in, refine that. Oh, something unexpected happened. Think even more about what these shapes are. As this is a rounded piece to come around the leg. How does it meet this piece? Use this shade. Bring the shadow up. Take a look. Think perspective a bit. Shadow. Probably want to take this edge out just because it looks a little too biomech. I suppose if I was going full, I would make these completely pointed, but I don't really want to. I think that making it look a little less natural is perfect for this character who is not necessarily, maybe chaotically aligned. Don't want them to seem a little bit too in tuned with nature. They're more in tune with maybe a darker nature. Something more industrial, functional. I kind of picture this character as being more, if you've ever gone into Star Wars lore, like Riven, dark and light. Let's definitely get rid of some of these light shades that are in here. They don't make any sense at all. It's nice to have something to just kind of focus on that you can just drop into. Just a repeating pattern or something like it. Just kind of let your mind flow. Sometimes my eyes feel like they unfocus or hyperfocus while I'm working. There's a little blue in there. Must have added that at some point. A little Easter egg for me to find. Let's clean this a little bit. There. We are down to the ankle. So far I'm not detailing the shoes quite yet. Thinking about foot proportions. I think that foot is a little bit long. Yes, it is. And let's fix that. Give his feet a little bit more room. He's presumably wearing some kind of boot, even if it's a very thin boot. maybe in the back there's more tread. But that's okay for now. Start fleshing out some of this other leg. Let's get some plates in here, shadows. I'm going to paint as though this is, maybe he is resting it on the inside of his armor right there. Maybe not, but I'm going to go with that assumption at the moment so that I can draw this up the way that I want it. The edges and the lines that I want. Give me just one moment. Okay, we're back. Just wanted to stretch for a minute, correct some posture problems. You know, the essentials. Alright, so this is actually needs to come around the side of the leg here. And the perspective needs to fix a little bit like this. Let's see. So, perspective-wise, I guess the top of the foot, it's almost facing out, so we really need to reflect that here. Very broad strokes here just to kind of get structural things right before we commit to coming in and detailing. honestly, we haven't really detailed much yet. This comes a little bit higher up, huh? Before it sweeps up. And indeed, it needs a little more of a sweep. Need to remember that this goes back, so there's a little shadow. And deeper shadow under here. Not quite so deep on the side of this inner structure. Just need to indicate that it's there. Fairly symmetrical. I'm gonna go even deeper in the shadow in here. Just above that inner part. A little bit of curvature. That's a little too dark. Painting from a distance on purpose so I don't really lose my perspective of symmetry with the other side, things like that. Make sure that this looks like it belongs. This is looking very awkward. And not too bad though. Again, just distance painting here. It's going to look a little strange for a moment if I look too closely. Bring this out even more. And generally shadow this in for a moment. There's a big gap there. Just kind of noticed that. Let's see what happens if I close that gap. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. Except that these flanges don't come out quite as far as I want them to. Leg is getting a little too narrowed. Should actually be like out to here. Alright, let's come in a little bit and make a cleaner result, refine. Yeah, let's do that. Right, like that. I hope you're having a good time whenever you're watching this. I hope this just calms you a little bit. Watch somebody doodle, scribble. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. La, la. La, la. Sometimes I admit that I lose a little focus even when I'm doing this, as things cross my mind, like work or family, little things just drift into mind. I think I never removed. Oh my goodness. I never removed the but be right back. That is so silly. I am so sorry. But I've just done some work on these graves here and I'm pretty happy with it. I think I'm going to call this stream because I seem to be a bit distracted. And I'll pick this up probably sometime this week. But it's fun to see where we left off. Let's see if I can show you where we started. Let's go, show and tell. Move this like this. Put this right next to it. Like that. And let me show you what this looks like. You can see there was a lot less detail when we started today. Things were kind of in an in-betweeny state. Not much in the way of proportions has changed, but definitely a lot more structure was formed. In those graves. Breastplate, a little bit of work and imagining the color. Pretty happy. Okay. I wish you a good day and a good evening, or whatever time it is for you. I hope you're at peace. This is Origin. Take care.